Hey, entrepreneurs, are you trying to make bigger profits in your small business? If you're like most of us business owners, increasing your profitability is always on your mind, and you're probably looking for ways to grow your revenue while growing your company. Well, you found a podcast that shares ideas to help you do just that. I'm Marcia Reiner. I am a business growth strategist and a profit booster. I've helped tons of small business owners to establish and implement a tangible plan that guarantees increased profitability, guides your growth, and plans for a future exit. Because building a highly profitable and sale-ready business creates a win-win scenario. That's more money now and a windfall when it's time to let go. And I want to share strategies that I've learned with you on today's Profit with a Plan podcast. But before we get started, I want to share a powerful training that I have going on right now that really has created a huge impact for my clients. It's called the 30-Day Profit Booster. And this is where I show you how you can boost your profits 45% in just 30 days. I know it seems insane, but I can do it. And it's simply by following a 3-step method that doesn't require that you're chasing more customers. And this quick and easy profit boosting strategy can be done without spending more money on marketing, hiring additional staff, or working longer hours. Go check it out with a free registration and webinar to learn about it at 30dayprofitbooster.com. All right, so I have my guest on today, Ann Carden. Ann is a strategic business growth consultant and marketing and sales coach. She's the CEO of Carden Inc. and the founder of Expert in You brand and programs. She is a 3-time author and a #1 international best-selling author, speaker, and podcast host of Expert in You. Ann has more than 41 years in business, marketing, and sales experience. She spent 13 years in corporate business management, managing multiple million-dollar departments for multi-billion-dollar national retail corporations. She has been an entrepreneur for over 30 years, building and selling 5 previous businesses. Working as a coach and consultant since 2010, Ann has helped hundreds of coaches and consultants and businesses to add hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars to their businesses, over 50 different types of businesses. Ann has also trained and educated thousands of business owners and entrepreneurs and professionals through speaking, workshops, seminars, and social media channels. And Ann was recently inducted into the Who's Who of America for entrepreneurship and in the Who's Who of America for professional women. Wow, congratulations, Ann. That's awesome. Welcome to Profit with a Plan podcast. I'm so excited to have you today.
Thank you, Marcia. It is my pleasure and honor to be here with you. I'm super excited.
Yeah, me too. So interesting history there. And oh my gosh, throwing numbers like 41 years. You don't look it. You must have started when you were 10, right? Or
I
5 or 3.
did. Yes. Actually, it's funny you say that. I was actually 7, although that wasn't included in those 40 years. I'm sorry to say. But I was 7 when I started my first business. It wasn't a business at the time, but I was an entrepreneur at 7 years old. I ran craft classes out of my basement and sold them to the neighborhood kids. So I was trying to remember, what did they pay me? 10 cents or a quarter? I don't remember, but I had overhead, so I had to charge them for the craft supplies.
That's fantastic. So many of us, once we decide I think we're born and it's like it flows through our blood, the fact that we're entrepreneurs and everything we do is super like creative. And how can I do this? And how can I figure this out? And it's just a way of thinking and being, and it comes out of our pores, right?
It's in our DNA. I think, even when I worked in corporate, one of the things that made me very successful in my career and reasons why I kept getting promoted is I was very creative and I was very innovative and I was doing things that were outside the box. And so I was really an entrepreneur, even though at that time I didn't really identify as that. But it is something that is just kind of ingrained in you, and it's going to show up whether you're working a job for someone else or whether you are doing it for yourself. So I truly believe that.
I love it. I love it. And that leads us to our topic today, which is going to be really exciting. we both work in the coaching and consulting space, which is
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. There's so many different lanes and angles and ways that we help customers with that. And I think it's going to be great to kind of showcase that a little bit in the way that even business owners or experts in their field can add a layer of
Mm-hmm.
consulting or coaching to their current business model and create another silo of income that comes in because they know their jam, right? Because they're experts in their
100%.
industry.
It's a great way for them to scale without buying more stuff, without, if you think about, especially like small businesses, a lot of times, brick and mortar businesses or, to make more money means more overhead in a lot of cases. And so it cuts into their profits, which is what this show is all about. And so adding a layer of coaching or consulting to your business is it's a great next step to scaling your business and also using all of that expertise and all of that value that you have acquired over the years being successful in your business and now being able to give that back to other people and making an incredibly lucrative extra income stream doing it. So yes, I'm excited to talk about this.
I think it's so exciting. And there's so many results that can come out of it, right? It's not just that you could, impart your wisdom on, other people in the industry, but you're also possibly even bringing on a potential buyer for your business if you train them well enough, right? You could bring on partners, you can bring on employees, you can bring on so many different avenues to when you're already training and teaching them what you know. And it's just so that's why this topic really excited me, because there's it's like that onion, right? We peel it back and you can get, I didn't think that would be a gain out of it. So
well, and for me, and I know you've sold businesses, I've sold multiple businesses, and for me, it was a next step. So when I was really kind of tired of, not tired is really the word. I felt like I needed a new challenge, and I felt like, okay, so I have this saying, Marcia, learn, do, teach. Learn, do, teach. So first you learn how to run a business, right? First you learn all the stuff, you make all the mistakes, you do all the things, you grind it out. Then, and you're doing it. So first you're learning how to do that. Then you're actually doing it. You're applying what you're learning. You're getting better at what you're doing. But then your next layer is to teach that to other people, because otherwise that education, that knowledge, that wisdom, that experience just stays with you. And your real growth is going to come from outside of that box. Now you could have multiple businesses, true. You could do it that way. But the thing with coaching and consulting is not only are you giving back and helping other people not make all the same mistakes, not waste the money, not do all the same things that you did, you're helping them fast forward their success. It's why we see, millionaires pop up. I think the last count was 1,000 new millionaires every day in the United States. That's significant. Now, when I had my first business, like you didn't even think about $1 million. It wasn't even really a thought, all those years ago, 30 something years ago. And when you thought about a millionaire, you thought, oh my gosh, that's so out there, but it's not today. It's kind of common language today. So when you think about those things, you're fast forwarding people's success. We see that in the marketplace today, but it can be your next thing. It can be your next career. It can be your way into retirement and still get to do what you love and still pour into people and make a great income. So yeah, you can easily build $1 million business with, $20,000, $50,000 business clients and teaching what you know. I mean, think about that. And there's virtually no overhead to do that.
And I think the coaching and consulting industry has some sort of like $1 billion price tag on it, with the number of people that are getting into it, that are looking for the guidance that advisors and consultants like you and I provide to these business owners. And they're looking for their own business to grow. But then when they reach that idea, they can also add that layer while still being a business owner, right? Maybe they take on a mentorship or something, right?
Yeah.
So I think that these ideas, and that's why I wanted to really juice or squeeze it out first as to the end game. So listeners would go, oh, I could really do this before we
Yes.
started talking about the nuts and bolts of it, is to really just entice them to open their mind and think
Yes.
about the possibility of sharing their wisdom with either the next generation or yeah, even just helping those that, have that need it. And the opportunities are so huge.
So true. And actually, you mentioned it, but the consulting industry is over $200 billion. Over 200 billion. That's a lot. And business coaching in particular is over 25 billion.
Isn't that
So
amazing?
it is a wide open industry. It seems very saturated when you're actually in the midst of it, because it seems like everyone you see and know is coaching. But the thing is, there's so many variables and there's so many different ways that you can coach that are super specific, or they can be broader. There's so many ways to actually do a coaching and consulting business that we literally are not stepping on each other's toes. In fact, there's still a shortage, in my opinion, of good, I'm talking people that really know what they're doing. Now, there are a
Exactly.
lot of people that don't. You and I know that. We've been in this world, right? We see people that fire up their laptop and go, oh, I think I want to coach people on business, even though I've never owned one, even though I've never run one, I've never done anything. And so
I
there are
took a
those
course.
people. That's right. I took a course, or I took a weekend certification. That isn't what we're talking about. I'm talking about true expertise, true
Correct.
knowledge, true wisdom. I call it career collateral. It could be business collateral. So all the things that you've learned, those are going to be highly valuable for other people. And the fact that you truly already know what you're doing, you've been through it, you've been in the trenches, you've experienced the mistakes and the pitfalls. You cannot get that in a weekend certification or a course or even buying into an organization. I just want to say that.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And it's businesses are so hungry for guidance and help, right? It's expensive to run a business these days. It
Yes.
really is. Cost
It's
of
more
labor, cost
expensive.
of supplies, everything that they
Yes.
have. So if there's a shortcut, right? If there's a way that they can avoid those mistakes, then
Mhm.
then they're reaching and they're very interested and welcome to the idea of, yeah, I'd love some help, right? I'm
Well,
wearing 10
first,
hats. I could hand off a couple of those hats, right? Help me figure this out a little bit better, right?
absolutely. The first thing that people need to know is when you invest in a coach, you're investing like you're buying speed. That's what your money is buying. It is buying speed of results, speed of success. Also, what you will not waste along the way. Like a coach, a great business coach is free, and they're worth their goal. They're worth their weight 100 times over, because they will knock 10 or 12 years off of your learning and doing and exhausting and all of those things. But again, a good business coach, right? But you'll save so much money. So it is truly an investment, but it's not just an investment into your business. The thing that a lot of people don't realize is who you really grow through that, like who you grow into through that experience.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you learn so quickly when you're working with someone who is literally spoon feeding you what your next step should be and what you should be doing and what you could be doing in the bigger picture. And they get you out of the weeds, so to speak, and they start helping you move to a bigger vision. And it's hard to do that when you're on your own for
Ah,
yourself.
it's almost impossible to do it. You never hear about those companies that where one person was the only thing that made that company successful, right?
Right.
Anytime you find the companies, it's the people, it's the teams, it's the advisors that come in, it's the
Yes.
outside advisors that lead them, it's their mentors. So it's funny, my dear friend is getting ready to have a grandbaby, and she just made an announcement over the weekend. Oh, it takes a village. And I go, it does take a village to run
Yes.
a company. And
Yes.
so understanding that, know that you don't have to try and, force that square peg through a round hole all by yourself. And
Yes.
so, yeah. So,
So
all right.
hopefully we'll open up people's minds today, not just to maybe become a coach or a consultant, but if you're listening and maybe you're not in the place where you're ready for that yet, then really hopefully you'll understand the value of a coach. When I worked, the reason I became a coach, and maybe like you, Marcia, I'm not sure, but the reason I became a coach is because in my last two businesses before I sold those, I struggled to get them above break even. Now I knew how to run businesses. I had already sold three others, but I was in a new market. It was right in the middle of the recession. So I expanded in the recession in 2008, which was nuts. Everybody else was shutting down around me. I went bigger, and it was through all of those things. My business wasn't profitable. It was breaking even. It was just, maintaining, keeping the doors open. And I knew I wasn't happy with that. I wasn't settling for that. And so I hired my very first business coach. Now I had done conferences and things like that in the past and always looked to grow myself and my business, but I hadn't actually hired a business coach because I didn't really know any. I mean, we weren't a dime a dozen like we are now. The internet, we were just starting to get on the internet. And because I hired that coach in 30 days, she had everything turned around. It happened to be a marketing thing. It wasn't a business thing at all, but it was the marketing that was stopping me from getting more people through the door and all of that. And so it was so impactful for me that I thought, oh my gosh, I want to do this. Like, it changed my life, and I wanted to be able to do that for other people. So that's how I originally decided to become a business coach.
That's funny. Very similar story. I was getting coached myself, right? Spending, investing in myself and getting these ideas to grow my own practice. And it's funny, I'm sharing ideas with my clients because their business plans were failing. I'm a recovering financial advisor. And so they were liking that advice more than my investment advice, because again, they're a dime a dozen on every corner, right, worse than Starbucks, these financial advisors. And then, so they wanted that more. And so that's where I started to shift along the way, and, burn out in the field and change. But interesting, we have similar paths that
yes,
that drew us to it. All right. So let's talk about, now that we've, totally gushed over the idea of being a coach or a consultant and shared the value of truly what it brings, tactics and results that clients really can't get on their own. So we've talked about that, but let's talk about how someone might transition into becoming or offering a little bit of consulting to help somebody else do what they've already experienced.
Yes. So good. So the first thing that I tell people is work within your sweet spot. If you are trying to go outside of your lane where you don't have any credibility really built up. So let's say you're a plumbing company, for example, you're running a successful plumbing company. You've done very well for yourself. You've learned a lot of things along the way. It would make so much sense for you to become a coach for other plumbing companies, because you've already got the credibility, you've got the business support, the ins and outs of the plumbing industry and the trade. You probably maybe were a plumber or are a plumber yourself, so you know all the nuts and bolts. That is the easiest path. One of the biggest mistakes I see, Marcia, is when people decide to go into coaching or consulting is they don't stay really within their area of genius, and they think that they need to invest in a company or certifications or other things to learn, to be able to do this. And then people take them down the wrong path. Now they're trying to teach them things they've never done before. They're trying to help them work with people they have no clue about that kind of a business. And so I just see that big mistake made out there. It was one of the reasons I wrote my best-selling book, Expert in You. Think about what that is saying, Expert in You, how to build a lucrative and impactful coaching and consulting business around your expertise. Because it's the fastest path. It is your fastest path. Because you're also going to have to learn the strategies and the ins and outs of building that side of a business. It's very different. When I came into the coaching and consulting space, I did what I knew to do, and it got me so far, but it wasn't the thing that was going to take me a lot higher. And I was like, what is wrong here? Why can't I make the kind of money in my coaching and consulting that I was able to make in my small businesses? And what I realized is I fell into a lot of the pitfalls and mistakes that were being taught out there, especially in the online world. And that's where my book came from. I took a step back and I said, what's wrong here?
Mm.
Why is this not working? And I discovered what the mistakes were. And one of the mistakes is I was trying to fit myself into somebody else's cookie cutter box, somebody else's cookie cutter system. I was trying to learn all their stuff, thinking that I needed that, when in reality, I had everything inside of me that I needed. I just needed to know how to package, market, and sell my coaching and consulting.
You know
And
what? That's often the harder part, right? Because we know something, like in your example, you know plumbing, you know the ins and outs of the business, you've struggled and survived. How do you get plumbers? How do you get these pieces? But then that is a business, but you have to wrap another business around it to package yourself, right?
right,
And
it's
so
very
that's,
different.
yeah, definitely a
Mhm.
challenge.
Yeah, and you're also talking about building a personal brand now that's aside from your business brand. So it is it's a whole different world going into coaching and consulting. And I wish I even invested in an organization. You and I know what but I even invested in a coaching organization thinking that that was the path I needed to go down because they had a lot of tools and
Sure.
bells and whistles and things. But what I found again, it really kept me playing very much below the
Mm.
skill set that I had, because it really, which I did not know, of course, until I was into it. It was really designed for people who didn't know what they were doing in business. In my opinion, it was designed for startup people, who were coming in and just wanting to be a business coach, but again, maybe they've never owned a business. And
Mm.
I had already built several, sold them. So I had been from startup to literally starting from nothing to selling. And it was so much below my skill set, but nobody recognized that. And nobody could help me move outside of what they were teaching. And so I felt very stuck.
Mm.
I felt very unfulfilled. I was bringing in the wrong clients as a result. I was bringing in clients that I didn't enjoy working with. Nothing
Mm.
against the clients. It's just I knew I had more to offer, and I
Right.
wasn't able to do it with the way I had learned to build my business through them. And so, but they weren't the only ones. I invested a lot of money trying to figure this thing out. And through all of that frustration, I came to the realization I'm either like you do in business. I'm either going to figure this out or I'm going to get out, right? You come to that crossroads, and I was there. I was at that crossroads. I'm like, I am not loving this. I'm not loving what I'm working with people on. I don't get to use my skills. I don't get to use my knowledge. I have to convince them that they want success. That doesn't go well.
Oh
Let me
my
just tell
gosh.
you. And so it was through all of that frustration, but I always say if you stick with it, through all adversity is reward, right?
Yep.
And that was the thing that pulled me back. And I said, I see the problem here. I see what I've been doing wrong. And for me, what I've been doing wrong for me. And I completely redesigned my whole business. And I also wrote my book as a result of what I learned. And I even wrote the frustration into my book. So you can even see the frustration that I had, but
Wow.
it shifted everything. It shifted everything. And now that was several years ago, and here I'm still here. So it's all
That's
good.
fantastic. And yes, we all need to, I think the real side that I want the audience to understand is that you don't even have to be a business owner. You could be part of a team that you just know inside and out. So maybe you
Sure.
know accounting, right? And you
Yes.
know it so well for running this plumbing company. You could do it for 4 or 5 other plumbing companies, right? Or your HR or something. So you don't actually have to be the owner to be the consultant on here. You can consult
True.
small side. But I think
Yes.
that what you brought out here that was so important was that you need to stay in your lane.
Mhm.
So if you know something, even your experience, right? You knew running businesses and you bought into this program and they taught you, they kept you small, right? They didn't
Yes.
allow you to really live in that expert area that gives you so much joy when you can share it with somebody
Mhm.
and go, here's what I learned. Here's what you look at this bruise here and look at this broken bone
And
there that I
scars.
got from
Yes.
struggling, the hard way. And I'm going to give it to you as the easy way,
Yes.
right?
100%. Yes. And I think part of the reason too, Marcia, why I'm so passionate about helping people understand this is because a lot of people maybe do realize coaching or consulting is their next thing. I mean, it's out there now. When I first started, when I was first a business coach, I had to kind of explain what that was to people. They didn't even really know what that was. Of course, now everyone knows what that is. But that being said, a lot of times people they're not aware how to go about it. And so they end up falling into these crazy internet gimmicks and crazy traps and
or franchises, or I'm going to
Oh
buy
gosh,
this
drink the
franchise.
Kool-Aid. I hear from a lot of coaches, I drank the Kool-Aid. I drank the Kool-Aid. And nothing against any of those organizations. And I'm not here to say anything bad about anything, but here's really where I would love for people to know and to take away from this is those things. You don't need any of those things to start. Like start your business with where your expertise already is. And even if you're coming from corporate, even if you're coming from a career, you've got expertise that we were talking specifically about business coaches, but you've got expertise where you could now consult people on that expertise, and you've got the credibility because you've done it. And so you've got huge value to bring to people. What I will tell you to really be aware of when you do this is you do not have to start small. So a lot of the strategies that are taught out there is you start with a little bitty low ticket thing, and you get people to buy in, and you flesh it all out, and you make sure you know what you're doing. And if you come with experience and skills and knowledge, and you've been doing this for years, the fact that you're now doing it in a little bit different way is insignificant. You still have the knowledge, the experience, and the skills. And so now you can start at the top of the ladder instead of at the bottom of the ladder. And I want people to know that. When I see a doctor in a Facebook group selling something for $97 going broke, I could cry. A doctor.
Exactly.
So I'm on a mission, right? That I'm going to let people know you don't have to start at the bottom. You can start at the top. Let all the other people who don't know what they're doing play in the bottom, like swim with the sharks. You don't have to do that.
In when you're making an impact in a company, right? So as an example, I have a friend that that does a lot of sales training and does this stuff. Well, she's been able to look at opportunities where a company may have hired a salesperson where she's come in as a sales consultant, right?
Yes.
And done some work for them on a contract basis where there's no huge commitment. And it's been really profitable for her. And it gives her choices where she can work with a couple of different companies. And I think that freedom is a really nice lane that adds to the consulting world, is that you're not just an employee and trapped into another job, but you start running a company on your own to be a consultant and working on this project or this opportunity or for this company and that company. So it adds all that freshness to your day-to-day, right?
Yes.
So you start to really enjoy it. And when you can do that, and you're providing a service and education to these companies, in this particular example, what's the benefit to the company, right? I mean,
Huge.
That's if you're charging $97, then you're probably not giving a real benefit to the company.
No.
But in my case, if I'm improving a company's revenue and profitability by, 4 or 5x, then I should be entitled to a portion of that X, right?
Yes.
A pretty healthy portion sometimes because of the runway that you're providing for that company. Right.
100%. And that was the other thing I had to learn was how to price in the right way. So, again, I was taught a kind of a cookie cutter way of pricing, $497 a month, right?
$97. It's always that end number, right?
Yeah. And what I found is the $497 a month clients. First of all, that was probably hard for them because they were not in a place to be able to afford more, which also meant that they didn't have the same thing to lose. When you have someone investing $50,000 or $100,000, they're a lot more committed. And that's really, I know what we're going to talk about today is how to get those bigger clients and how to not undervalue. But I had to learn that because I remember my very first client. Now, my first client was somebody I had been out there networking with my other two businesses, and I decided I wanted to be a business coach. So I went to a friend of mine who I networked with, who I met through networking, and she had a retail store. And I said, hey, I would love to help you and see if I know what I'm doing. So I charged her $197 for 3 months. But I just wanted to see if I knew what I was doing.
You wanted to test it.
Yes. So I had also worked but nobody was telling me different because at that point I wasn't coaching with anybody else to learn how to be a coach or any of that. So I was just flying by the seat of my pants, trying to figure it out. And I thought, I'll see if I can help her. So the very first week, and because I had 13 years in corporate retail, I knew what I was doing. The very first week, she ran a 300% increase in her store, and she had been struggling. And I thought, oh my gosh, I totally undervalued myself, right? And then my second client, I kind of did the same thing. Our very first session found a $500,000 opportunity for her that she would completely miss, didn't even know it was there. And I thought, okay, I know what I'm doing here. I'm going up on my fees. But then I was taught by these people that I was working with, the 497. And what I found is that those clients were not ready. They really weren't in a place, or they were not really ready mindset wise for what I could truly do with them and what I could do for them. And that's where the frustration came in. And when I took a step back and I said, wait a minute, if I'm helping this plumbing company add, $2 million to their business in 12 months, I deserve to be paid $36,000 or $50,000, and that's where it was at that time. I deserve that because I am coming in. And in this case, I think of one client, they were missing money they couldn't find. And their P&Ls were saying one thing, but the money in the bank was another, and they couldn't figure it out. And I came in and I solved it in 2 hours. We put about, close to $300,000 of profit in their bank account. Those are the things that happen when you work with someone who truly knows what you're doing. But what is that worth? I totally undercharged him because I only charged him $36,000 for that. And then I ended up working with him for, a year, and we added a couple million to his business. So,
that's fantastic.
But I had to learn all that.
I think your story aligns with, confidence, right? So when you're first starting, you don't know, right?
I didn't know
the opportunity. Yeah. But as we're explaining the results, if you're able to make a $1 million or $3 million or $5 million change in a company because you knew something that they weren't doing, right?
Yes.
Then that enables you to be able to charge appropriately for that. Right.
Yes.
Now, you're not going to charge, $1 million on a $3 million thing, but you know what? You could.
But you could charge 300,000.
So looking at looking at what the impact does is really truly a nice pricing strategy on how to do that.
And that's what I call it. I call it impact pricing. Some people call it value pricing, but I call it impact pricing. And then the other piece of this, and these are just good things for people to know if they're thinking about getting into this space. There's a lot of different ways to price, but impact pricing is really lucrative. And there's a lot of ways you can do it. You can do it with a high front end and a retainer. And then you can even make money on the back end with the results that you help them create. That's one way. You can, you can figure out the money piece. But if you know for sure that you can impact a company, let's say 3 million, if you think about a 10 times return, well, that would be a $300,000 engagement for you. Yep. As a coach. And so some of that you won't do at first, but if you are thinking that way, and if you really step into that ownership of, I know what I'm doing, I know the places, I know the levers to pull, I know the places to look, I'm sure we can impact your business this much. If you take my guidance and you do what we need to do, then you can absolutely charge for that in a big way. And even if you charge 600,000 and they got a 5 times return, that's still significant. It's printing money for them. It's like money at a discount, right?
It is. Well, think about the salespeople that you hire, right? And you pay them commission. It's a very similar model, right?
It is.
You're paying me commission on the results that I'm producing for you. So it's the same thing. But Anne,
However,
there's so much we can talk about on this topic. I know we could probably go on for the next 4 or 5 days because we're both incredibly passionate about what we believe in and the way that we help our clients. But I think that this has been a really good conversation to start to open the eyes up for today's business owners and experts in their industry to think about adding another layer of consulting or coaching to their current income level or practice and help those that need it. So with that in mind, I know you have a lot of resources that support people on this. Where can listeners find out more about you and how they can become an expert as well?
Yeah, so you can go to my website at annlcarden.com. And I have a lot of free resources on my website that you can grab. And if you want to get my book on Amazon, there's also, you can get that. So if you just go to my website, there's loads of stuff. There's blogs and there's videos, and it's connected to my podcast, my YouTube channel. So basically that would be the place. But if you also want to just connect with me on social media, I'm on all the platforms, and I love to connect with people and see how I can help them and see how, I can guide you if there's something you want and you don't know where to go look. I'm happy to share resources with you too. So my website would be the best way to go. And I've got lots of things there for you to get a hold of, and many, many of them free.
Love it. Love it. And you also, as you just kind of sprinkle out there, give us a real quick piece on your podcast, because you talk about this stuff all the time on your podcast too.
I do. And Marcia is going to also be a guest on my podcast coming up here shortly. So my podcast is called Expert in You. Obviously, my brand, you can, if you're watching the video here, you can see it behind me, Expert in You. And it is all around helping entrepreneurs, small business owners, coaches, consultants, experts really play at a higher level. And I just interview some incredibly amazing people. I interviewed a Harlem Globetrotter yesterday. So I've had celebrities on there, and I've just had some people doing amazing things like Marcia. So you are going to get so much value from that. And once in a while, I do my own shows, but I do have a YouTube channel that I give a lot of content as well. So all of those things, you can Google me. You'll have no trouble finding me.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, I'm so proud of you running your podcast as well as helping people to really bring out that expert in themselves. Because, whether it's the next stage of their career or they just want to add a little something to their business, it's a perfect opportunity to really look at that. So
yes, and it is very lucrative. It's high profit, and that's what we're talking about here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, listeners, I hope you found a couple of ideas that you can put into your business that will help you be more profitable, and just adding consulting, coaching, or mentoring. Paid mentoring onto your plate can really add another stream of income for you. So I love that idea. And as I mentioned before, how would you like to boost your profitability by 45% in just 30 days? Come on, don't think it's possible. I promise you it is possible, and it's easier than you think. We can do it in just 30 days. So check out my new training called the 30-Day Profit Booster. The quick and easy profit boosting strategy can be done without spending more money on marketing, hiring additional staff, or working longer hours. So go grab more information at 30dayprofitbooster.com. And Anne and I would love to hear your questions, feedback, ideas. Tell us what you think, or if you don't think it's possible, hit us up in the comments on the podcast notes here, and Anne and I will respond back and help you out. So while you're at it, subscribe. You don't want to miss future podcasts. So you can always catch Profit with a Plan on any of your favorite podcast players. And we're looking forward to more great profitable information on next week's show. So until then, make your plans and profit with them. Thanks so much, Anne.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. So much fun.